We'll do a quick review of the periodic table. I know that you have been familiar with it before. We need to look at it in terms of the information that we'll need to consider some physics. So let's look at the idea of an element in the periodic table and the relative sizes of the atoms. We can use the idea of an atom and an element interchangeably because an atom is the smallest portion of a piece of matter that still retains the property of that piece of matter. When it's an element, it means it's not combined, it's a single atom. Living things are a combination of 5 basic elements. You can also have maybe been exposed to some organic chemistry. High-end chemistry and physics of matter really overlap a good deal. A reminder about the periodic table. Fascinating information about the development and the history of it. That's a little bit outside of our class, but if you are interested in that, there's really some interesting things to learn. But it is very specifically arranged to give us a lot of information about the elements. And more about the roadmap of that later. You're familiar with this, you've seen it, there are categories. I've got some videos for you that go into much more detail about how to read the periodic table. The periodic table tells us mostly about, or the major plan in putting the periodic table together is around the orbital size of the electron shells, the mass and the magnitude and the volume of these different atoms. And it has to do with the electrical charge in the nucleus and then being balanced by a certain number of electrons that as those increase, the electron cloud increases. Orbits and the size of the nucleus change depending on the charges involved. Be aware of that now. We'll be talking about isotopes and molecules in a little bit and how the atoms will interact with each other and the degree to which they will be attracted to each other. That'll be in our next section, but it comes down to the electrical charges of the different atoms. This is a good graphic. Your book has a different one showing you the size of the atoms, and the sizes change as we had discussed based on the charge of the nucleus and then how many electrons are needed to balance that charge.